if you read this thing, you'd think everything is great. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? All bullshit. Well, the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board released their July real estate stats, and boy, did they sprinkle it with happy pill madness. We're going to get right into that. And the Prime Minister recently said in Hamilton that housing is not the primary responsibility of the federal government. We're going to dive into inflation numbers. We're going to talk a little bit about fixed rate mortgage renewals and all your questions coming up on this episode of the Wise Old Owl Show. Thanks for tuning in. So the big news today is that the Toronto Real Estate Board issued out their July stats for the Greater Toronto Area. And boy, if you read this thing, you'd think everything is great. I'm just going to read some points in the press release, okay? So GTA home sales, new listings, and home prices were up in July 2023 comparison to July 2022. Home sales continue to be above last year's levels in July. Compounding the impact of higher rates has been the persistent lack of listings for people to purchase compared to previous years. So they go on and on about this. They're talking about the TREBB MLS system in July, representing a 7.8% increase compared to July 2022. New listings were also up, but by a greater annual rate of 11.5. At the end of the day, we should be looking at trends from month over month over month, okay? And I'm going to give you the stats from May, June, and July, and you make your conclusion about what the market's doing. Because if you read this, it's sprinkled with happy pills and everything's positive when in fact it's not moving in the right direction. So let me give you these stats. In May of this year, we had 9,012 sales. June, 7,481. And July, 5,250. Since May, which is when we saw a rate increase of a quarter point in June and July, we've gone down 42% in sales since May, okay? As far as listings, they're saying there's less listings. Well, let's look at that. In May, we had 11,868 active listings, June 14,107, and July 15,371. We're up almost 30% in listings. And as far as price is concerned, okay, in May, the average price in the GTA was 1.196,101. In June, 1,182,120. And in July, 1,118,374. Down 6.5% since May. So tell me where the positive is in this. Things are getting rougher. Things are getting tougher. Okay? People can't afford these homes. Okay? The qualifying stress test is out of reach for many people. There's not as many buyers able to come up with the downstroke or the ability to afford homes at these rates. And things are starting to get dire, just like we predicted for the second half of this year. Okay? Now, I'm going to read to you the last paragraph in this press release, which I believe should have been the first paragraph leading off this report. Okay? And tell me if this is more the reality of the matter. We continue to suffer from a misalignment in public policy as it relates to housing. The federal government is targeting record levels of immigration for the foreseeable future, but we have seen very little tangible progress in creating more ownership and rental housing to accommodate this growth. Population growth is imperative for economic development. However, this growth will be unsustainable if people can't find an affordable place to live. All three levels of government need to be on the same page to fix this problem, said TREBB CEO John DiMichele. That's what this press release should have started with, because that's the damn problem. Okay? Stop sugarcoating all this data and call it like it is. If you want people to take the real estate profession seriously, call it like it is instead of sugarcoating the bullshit data into painting that it's a better picture than it is. It's not. So folks, get on with it. Okay? You got to take this with a grain of salt and drill down into the facts and compare what is going on from month to month to month. Who gives a shit about last year? Last year is a distant memory, okay? It's what's happening in the current state of affairs and what the market is doing. So the reality is it's not looking good. Then this week, the Prime Minister, in addition to all the other garbage he's going through, announced in Hamilton, quote unquote, housing isn't a primary federal responsibility. He said this in Hamilton. Now, I almost lost my mind over this. Like, this is almost bizarre for him to say something like this. How is it that it's not a federal responsibility? You have CMHC. CMHC is a federal crown corporation. Okay, it exists for one reason only, and that's to make housing affordable for everyone in Canada. The government came out with a national housing strategy. Okay, they were supposed to create all this affordable housing for people. It's been a shit show. It was a garbage program, terribly designed, mostly loans, and very cumbersome for anybody to understand what the hell it does. Like, this is a federal government that has failed miserably in this portfolio, okay? And, you know, we got a new housing, infrastructure and communities minister in Sean Fraser. He's got his hands full. I don't know how he's going to make out here, but this is going to be an absolute gong show, and one that, you know, we need to force our MPs to get all levels of government at the table, all the stakeholders at the table, to come up with a solution to solve this problem. Immigration versus housing supply, okay? The federal government controls manpower. They're the ones who bring in the immigrants, the non-permanent residents. And to give everybody a little fact check, in 2022, there were 437,180 new immigrants into the country, plus 607,000 plus non-permanent residents, for almost 1,050,000 newcomers to the country, okay? And right now, as far as non-permanent residents go, we have close to 5% of our population that are non-permanent residents. That means they're not landed. They don't have their permanent resident card. They could leave. And if they continue seeing how this government behaves, I'm sure many will leave, because it's a shit show. It's an absolute mess. People are living on the street. People are coming here as refugees and living in tents and parks. It's going to get cold soon. And I don't know how this is going to play out, but it's not good. When you got the mayor of the largest city in Canada asking residents to take in refugees, like, this is an absolute mess. How are we going to solve this problem? And I think what we need to realize is that it cannot be solved unless everybody's working together. And we have to stop taxing the hell out of development, because I'll tell you right now, new permits for single-family residents are down considerably, almost in half from its peak. And it's only getting worse because the cost to build is just cost prohibitive. Developers aren't going to build at these rates, okay? And when you add in all the additional development charges that have to be paid up front and all that, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, folks. It's a pipe dream. As I've said many times on this live show, okay, I live across the street from a parcel of land that has been zoned high density. It's north of the 401, between two subway stops of Wilson Station and Downsview, between Allen Road and Wilson Heights. This isn't the airport. This is on the other side of Allen Road. Okay, it's been earmarked for high density, affordable housing. It's been vacant for over 25 years since I moved in. 25 years. That's the speed in which government turns to build affordable housing. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. Anybody who's putting their chips down to think that this bet's going to cash in, you're going to lose your shirt. You're going to lose your shirt. Inflation. I'm not here to give you bad news. Okay, that's not my goal here today. I just want to rhyme off facts. But last year, inflation in July, August, and September was a very low number. So the likelihood that the the trending headline inflation rate of continuing to go down is going to stop. We're going to have a reversal of that CPI number. Expect we're going to hit the threes again. So it was great hitting 2.8 in June. I'm telling you, it's going to be a really tough time to maintain that level over the next quarter. So expect the next few months to settle in the threes, possibly fours, but it could be temporary. I wouldn't panic about it because of last year's low numbers in those months. So just don't worry about it. I think the Bank of Canada, for the most part, is likely done hiking, but I think they have their work cut out for them if this core inflation number doesn't hold steady. Oil's going up, costs are still going up, and remember, July picks up the carbon tax increases that took effect July 1st. So it's really, really going to be a challenge for inflation to really get to that 2% target rate. So it's going to be really sticky, but rest assured, it's only going to be temporary through these summer months, and we probably should start heading back to that 2% target rate in the fall, early next year. Now, if everything goes well, and as predicted, okay, we could possibly start seeing maybe the Bank of Canada look at cutting late 2024. Okay, so we're going to be higher for longer. It's going to be tough over the next 12 to 18 months. It's important that everybody prepare themselves for what's coming and be aware that rates will be higher for longer. Now, having said that, I want to talk a little bit about the fixed rate mortgage renewals that are coming up. And there were some interesting stats by I think it was the Canadian Bankers Association. I may be incorrect in that, but I think it was the Canadian Bankers Association or the Bank of Canada. I'm not sure who came up with the stat. But the big six banks have a boatload of renewals that are in the fixed rate terms coming up for renewal in the next 3 years. So through 2023, they have $276 billion in fixed rate mortgages that are coming up for renewal. 2024, next year, there's going to be $331 billion. And then in 2025, we're going to peak at $352 billion. So the peak renewal pain is going to be felt in 2024, 2025, as people come out of those 249, 279 rates, and they're going to see rates in the fives, possibly sixes. Okay, so this is where folks are going to start, really buckling down and tightening that chin strap on their helmet, because it's going to be really, really bumpy, because disposable income is going to go towards borrowing costs if they haven't paid down that debt. Now, for those folks that are trying their darnest to get through this, they're scraping through their savings, okay? A new stat that came out indicated that the savings rate in Canada, after adjustment for pensions, okay, is at 0%. There is no savings right now. Costs have gone up, borrowing costs have gone up, everything's going up, and people's savings rate, the net savings rate for Canada is 0. Let's buckle up, tighten the chin strap, and get into the Q&A hockey helmet that you have sent in via text, DMs, emails. Many people are sending me notes about questions and stuff, so we're going to get right into it, okay? So let's start off with RTL LP321. At what point does it make sense to secure a second mortgage? Okay, very good question. Second mortgages could be in a couple forms. They could be in the form of a line of credit or a private mortgage, okay? There are a few lenders, many lenders that offer lines of credits, HELOCs and the like. Some offer in second position. Most offer it in an all-in-one where you can have a mortgage component and a line of credit. But for the most part, it is a good idea to secure a second charge if you're trying to protect a low rate, okay? And you don't want to break that low rate. There are a lot of people in that situation where they have, they're still in the middle of a 5-year term at 249, and they don't necessarily want to break it for the next 2 years because the amount of money they need is not as significant as the main mortgage. So it doesn't make sense to break that mortgage at the lower rate. So in cases where you need some funds immediately, a second mortgage could be helpful, understanding that it's temporary and you're going to refinance it and pay it out at the end of the term. And you have the ability to do so. If you're in dire need of doing some renovations, you're looking to get an investment property and you need funds quickly, could be a good option. But always remember that private mortgages are expensive, okay? They're not cheap. They're not for the faint of heart. And you should be aware that there's going to be the trilogy of fees, okay? There's going to be lender fees. There's going to be broker fees and the appraisal fee. And in all cases, legal fees, okay? And not only legal fees by your lawyer, but also the lender's lawyer. You're paying 2 sets of legal fees. So all those costs add up. And you should always have an exit strategy, because private mortgages or second mortgages should be temporary. They're not long-term facilities. They will simply eat away at your equity, where they will just erode everything that you have of value, and you're going to be left with nothing if you're looking at it from a long-term perspective, okay? Try to pay it down, try to make lump sums. Make sure the person you're dealing with is giving you options. Ask what happens at renewal. What are the fees? What are the penalties? Can I make lump sum payments? These are all questions you should be asking, because it's imperative that you understand exactly what you're getting yourself into. If you do need help in this regard, feel free to give our office a call. We'll give you a breakdown of what pricing you should be considering, what costs should be involved, and we'll do our best to give you a few different scenarios and options to think about so you're not being taken to the cleaners. There are 3 types of private lenders out there, okay? There's scorpions, there's snakes, and there's sharks. The worst one being the shark, okay? Because when you're trying to get away from them, you could actually drown and still not get bitten by them. So you gotta be careful. Find a garter snake, find someone who's gonna be gentle and tells you exactly the way it is, because at the end of the day, they're costly, but they do provide solutions for certain situations, okay? Hope that helps. Gus_.652HJ. How can you avoid a bad private mortgage? What's with the private mortgage questions? Understand all the options and the features of the privates. A lot of them don't have many in your favor, but it's really important you focus in on who you're actually working with. If you can deal with a seasoned mortgage professional that could give you options in this space, use them, because this is where they have the experience to filter through the sharks that are out there and some people that are just looking for a higher rate of return on their money instead of a GIC, and they're a little bit more flexible. This is where you need to deal with seasoned mortgage brokers. And if you do need help in this regard, give our office a call. We'll be happy to help. Dan Brom 88. You both speak about A, B, and C lenders. These are new terms or concepts for some of us. Could you please define what these mean? Okay, so an A lender would be your chartered bank or any monoline lender that offers traditional mortgage financing, okay? There's no fee to you. They also offer mortgage insured products that are insured by CMHC, Sagen, or Canada Guarantee, okay? Those do have fees associated with them. The insurance premium gets added to the mortgage, and the only fee that you have is the 8% PST on the premium that you have to pay on closing. They're predominantly used for purchases on the insured side. And with respect to the A status, you're usually getting A rates. You're getting prime rates. You're getting the best rate on the board, and that would constitute an A lender. A B lender would be an alternative lender. An alternative lender would be someone like Home Trust, Equitable Bank, Canadian Western Bank, Community Trust. These are lenders that are willing to work with a client and go beyond the traditional debt service ratios, and they charge a little bit higher rates. Okay. Traditionally, they offer 1 to 3 year terms, and there's always a lender fee associated of about a point. Okay. They're temporary solutions. They're hoping that you graduate into a prime deal at some point in time. And they're great lenders. They help people that are in need of that financing that is required for a purchase, a refinance, a marital breakup, or whatever, and their ratios are beyond what the banks and monoline lenders would offer them. Okay. The C lenders, I would classify as private lenders, mortgage investment corporations. They're unregulated. It's basically, you got to be careful, okay? Because the fees could be excessive. These are people that will lend on equity. They're charging higher fees for a reason, and they'll cater to anybody with bad credit, no income, different types of properties, unfinished properties, renovations, stuff like that. And those are the 3 classes of lenders. So hopefully that helps. And I appreciate the question. Bud Fox 5955. Vince, do you know what percentage of boomers hold fixed or variable rates on their speculative portfolio of doors? That's an interesting question. I'm going to associate boomers with more conservative approaches to investing. And I'm going to suggest that most boomers opt for fixed rates on investment properties. They are keen on being conservative in nature and match up their rents, which aren't as volatile, with fixed rates that don't move around and are volatile. So, what I found over the last number of years, a lot of these condo speculators and whatnot went with these variables because they wanted the cash flow improvement because of the lower rate. But as we've seen, with variable rates having spiked from 2.45 now up to 7.2%, that has created a lot of problems in the investment rental game, because your rents are pretty much holding firm, your costs of borrowing have spiked, and you've gone from a positive cash flow into a negative one. And that is due to inexperience, greed, and not having the proper advice and insight to give you options and think about it, okay? Now, most of these folks are in static payments. Those that are in traditional variables did get notices every month and made some decisions to lock in throughout the process of these rates going up. But these static payments are in trouble. They're negative cash flow, and it's going to be really interesting to see how the condo market reacts with all these investors holding these properties with negative cash flows of $1,200 to $1,500 a month. And that's quite a lot to bear on an annual basis when you're upside down $15,000 to $20,000 a year. It's tough to swallow, and we'll see how that all plays out. I'll take one more. Are there any government programs or incentives available to assist homebuyers in today's market? Actually, there's quite a few. There's the RSP Homebuyer Program, where you could contribute funds into an RSP, get your tax refund, and then as long as those funds are in a registered retirement savings plan for 90 days or more, they could be withdrawn for the use of a home, okay? And you could withdraw up to $35,000 per individual. So if it's a couple, it's up to $70,000. And then you have 15 years to repay that money back. Okay, so let's say you withdraw $15,000 to purchase a home. You then have to repay at least $1,000 a year back to your RSP. That's non-tax deductible because you've already taken it out. You just got to repay it. And if you don't repay it, that $1,000 that's non-repaid gets taxed, okay, because you have to maintain that schedule. There's also the home buyers plan for the land transfer tax, but that's usually for properties under 400 grand. Anything above that, there's really not a whole lot that you get a break on. And you have the home buyer savings plan that was introduced. I'm not sure if all the banks have been able to jump on the program and set it up. I know it's a little bit cumbersome, but you could save up to $8,000 a year. It will earn money tax-free and go towards the purchase of a home. And I think you could contribute up to $40,000. So $8,000 a year, up to $40,000 can go towards the purchase of a home. And then, of course, you have the tax-free savings account, which is all-encompassing universal use of it, but you could use it for the purchase of your home as well. So on that note, we'll wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I really encourage everyone to subscribe, give me a like, send a question or a comment. I really would appreciate it. And for those folks that are struggling, keep your head up. If you need some help, reach out. We'll be able to give you a plan and some strategy and insight on what you could do, the little things to help you get through the month. Enjoy the weekend, enjoy the weather, and we'll see you next week.